Hi again then guys, and welcome to another circuit tune for one of the 1.43 vehicles in, of course, our most recent update, and this time we are going to N300 with the Subaru Impreza Type R Coupe. Now, of course, I already tuned the 22B way back for the same test track that we're going to be using, but that one was in N200 instead of N300, so if you want to do a comparison between the two, you could detune this one or you could tune up that one to the same level, but I wanted to see what this one could do in a category higher than that, since that one's already got N200 covered. And as it turns out, it can do a lot. This is a very good car in N300. Now, as far as the tuning goes, of course, as with all of my circuit tunes for N-Class cars, you can, by all means, retune it for a different category if you want to. You could take it down to N200, you could put it all the way up to N500, pretty much do whatever you want with it, because the majority of the tune setup is about the handling, not about the power. So N300 happens to be what I've done it for, but if you want to change that, by all means do so. I've got it on 124% power, then the lowest possible weight. Of course, traction control turned off. It's all-wheel drive anyway, obviously, so you don't really need it. We've got sport soft tyres, as always, to show what it can do under most circumstances, and obviously racing tyres will be even quicker. As far as the suspension, we've got the ride height 10mm higher than the lowest. Then for the spring frequency, we've got 2.2. And as you can see, that's on the front and the back. For the anti-roll, we've got 8 and 7 respectively. For the compression on the dampers, we've got 65 and then 92 on the rebound. Neutral camber on this one. I tried running it with half a degree on the front to improve the turn-in, but you don't really need it. It actually has the opposite effect on this one. It's not like the Mitsubishi GTO where it does help. With this one, it just makes it heavier, so you don't really need to do that. As far as the tow, that is neutral. You do have the rear wing, but you don't have adjustable downforce. As far as the diff, of course, as I always say, the diff is very much a personal driving style kind of thing, so if you want to change it, by all means do so, or just experiment with different numbers if you want to try it. So as far as the initial torque, I've gone as low as possible there. For the acceleration and the braking, they are as high as they can go, and for the center split, I've got the most rear bias you can have, which is a 35-65 split. I would definitely not recommend taking that any higher for any reason on the road. You simply do not need any more grip over the front end, it's got more than enough. As far as the transmission finally, of course, as I said, this is for N300, and this is the primary thing that you will need to change if you give it more or less power. If you give it less power, for instance for N200, you will need to make the gears closer, which is higher numbers in other words, and if you want to have it up in like N400, N500, then you'll want to extend the gears more. Maybe even remove and refit the gearbox just to go back to the default numbers even, and then work from there. But as far as N300 goes, I'd recommend an auto setting of 143 miles an hour, then for the individual gears 2.4, 1.7, 1275, 980, 750, and a final drive, as you can see, of 4.3. So that's it for the tune. Of course, tons of room for variation and personal style in there as always, but what you want to see is what can it do on the track, and how does it compare to my other builds? Well, as I alluded to just now, it compares very, very well. This is a brilliant N300 car, and N300 is really the territory where, from that point upward in the N classes, things get really competitive, because it's from N300 that you get the big dogs like Porsche and even some supercars and super sports cars involved, whereas for N100 and N200, you never really need to worry about that kind of thing happening. The closest thing to it is the Porsche 356, which of course is the quickest N200 car I've built. The Subaru is nowhere near that. It's fast, the 22B I'm talking about, of course. This one, though, in N300, it's the third fastest N300 car I've built. So it shows the raw potential that this one has, and that is third only behind the brand new Supra, that's a pretty big deal to be right behind that, and still my fastest N300 car is the Porsche, the 996 shape GT3. That's the early 2000s model. So no surprise there, the Porsches are very OP, but to be the third quickest one I've done, that's pretty impressive. It shows what the car is capable of. The handling is very good. There's a hint of understeer still there, which is kind of a Subaru trait anyway. The Evo, not as much, but the Impreza definitely has a heavier front end. which is one of the main reasons why I said you really do not want the center split to be any closer to 50-50 than it needs to be. So handling wise, it's very forgiving. The acceleration and the launch are very good. Top end, maybe not so much, but that's not too surprising. Subarus and Evos, it's not really their thing at the end of the day. Of course you could try it off-road if you want to, but overall, if you do decide to use this tune or combine it with some of your own preferences, I hope of course you have a lot of fun with it, win plenty of races with it, and if you want to check out my other circuit builds and all of the tuning that I've done in this game, click the playlist here on screen. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.